Hey, if you want to know how to use animations to bring your character to life in Unity, you've come to the right place, so stay tuned. We start directly by inserting our character. Get a tile sheet of your character. You can also use a 3D model, but it has to have bones. Paste the tile sheet into Unity and select here Sprite Node 2D and here Multiple. Then we go into the sprite editor where you can cut out all the parts individually or click on slice if you want to make it easy for you. Then add the individual parts in the scene and assemble your character. I have already prepared a movement script here. If you want to know how to program it, just take a look into the description. Okay, now we will animate. Open window, animation and animation. I like to drag this window down here. Now press on the player and then on create. Choose a place to save and now very important, press the red button to record the animation. From now on you can animate. Here on the timeline you can now create so-called keyframes of an animation. To do this, simply move parts of the character in the scene view. If you start the animation you will see that the animation automatically changes from one frame to the other. If you move parts of the body and adjust the frames, you can easily create animations with a little practice. I will now create the idle animation for my player. This is the animation that will be played when the player is not moving. When you are done with the animation, press the red button again and it's finished. And when I start the game now, I see that the idle animation has been applied. But since we want to have animations while running and jumping too, we have to create 2 more animations. To do this, we simply press here and then on create new clip. I will now quickly make the running and jumping animation. Okay, before we put them in, one more important thing. If we have an animation that should not loop, like my jumping animation here, we have to press on the animation in the folder and then turn off the loop time. Okay, now let's add the animations. To do this, we press on the animator that was created when creating the animations. Here we see our 3 animations and the idle animation was automatically set as the entry animation because we have created it first. Okay, now we have to create the transitions between animations. For this, we press with the right mouse button on, for example, the idle animation and then on make a transition. If we now click on the arrow, we can adjust some things here. First of all, we remove the check mark at the exit time, because this makes many animations go more smoothly into each other. But the important thing now is to set conditions when the animation is allowed to play. For this we have to create parameters. We now create a bool parameter and call it walking. Now we can define in the transition that the walking animation should be executed when the bool walking is true. Now I make a transition back to the idle animation, because if we were to start now, we would be trapped in the walking animation because we didn't make a transition back. Okay, now we have to create a script in which we control these parameters. For this we create a variable of the type animator. I call it animator. And the important function to control the animations is animator.setBool. There's also, for example, .setIn, but since we have to create a parameter of type bool, we have to use setBool. In here we write the exact name of the parameter and then the value that the parameter should take. I will use a new variable as a value, which should be true when you press the A or D button and additionally when you are on the ground, so when you're running. The logic about being on the ground is handled by my movement script. If you want to know how to do that, just take a look into my description. Now we go back into the scene and give this script to the game object and drag the animator into the right place. And now we can try this out. Now let's add the jumping animation. For this I'll make a transition from any state to jump, because I want to be able to jump out of any animation, like here out of the run and out of the idle animation. Here it is extremely important to remove the hook at the can transition to self, so that the animation doesn't bug. As a parameter I create the bool jumping. The jump animation is of course executed when jumping is true and finished when jumping is false. In the script I now create a second animator.setBool function for the parameter jumping and control it with the variable is jumping, which is set true if the player is not on the ground and false if he is on the ground. Okay, now off to the scene and test the whole thing. And hey, we now have a fully animated character. I hope I could teach you something. And if you have any questions or suggestions for future videos, please write them in the comments. Now, if you want to learn more about video game development in Unity, press here and see you next time. Ciao!